So, welcome. I hope in the last two lectures you have got enough food for thought and you would already be thinking on the lines of looking at life in a different perspective and trying to look slightly deeper. When I said you would be thinking, so what is thinking? Actually, if you look at it, all life, if you boil down, can be blocked to, and your behavior, when you talk of behavior and how the self proceeds in the world, it actually boils down to your cognition, emotions, your cognition, that is intent, grossly speaking, it has finer definitions also, and your action. Action is a result of your thought and emotion and your circumstances and all. So, we will not talk about action at this juncture. Let us pick up the important part which you do it, which you are still doing, and what I was doing while in this brief pause was thinking. Thinking is a part of cognition, but what is cognition? Cognition is often used as the synonymous word for thinking, but is it just one monolith, a homogeneous process of brain which we call cognition, or is it composed of something else? Actually, cognition has lot of connected processes within it, which can be marked as abstraction, judgment, and these are things which we do it, we live by it, decision making. These, and how do you reach these? These are higher level processes. These are higher processes, but they use perception. The perception is giving a meaning to the all the sensory things which have gone through your sense organ, language, and this all leads to an higher order function. But why do you want to do it? As we talked in the previous lecture, that the brain has this habit of taking experiences, saving memories, pushing you through certain acts, all for survival. And how do you survive? You survive through the knowledge of the world around you. So, all this cognition and memory, they all work for knowledge, gaining new and modifying the old one. What is already there, like for example, if you would have gone to a restaurant in your childhood when you were small, and the instructions which the parents give how to eat and how to behave and all is a knowledge store. In a place like restaurant, how do you behave? How do you behave in a hospital, or how to behave in a classroom? All this is gone into your memory, these are experiences, and even at that time when the experience was going on, you were putting your brain into devising new ways of doing it. But many years later, when you go there alone or with your spouse or with your friends, that old knowledge will not continue in the same way. Like you were behaving at like a 5-year-old would have, and what your parents told also, you would not be doing the same thing. That new knowledge will get into your brain and modify the old one. Maybe when you become a parent, again you are going to repeat the same story to your child, but that is a different ball game altogether. Even then the time would not remain the same. So, it is like you can't step into the same river twice. The same thing, by the time you put your foot into a river, take it out, put it again, water has flown in. So does the memory. Memory is like, and experiences are like this. So, cognition involves all this. Now, thinking is a product of it. Thinking as a product has all these things what I was just mentioning. See, this is the type of stuff which you do in your life. You are solving a problem either through algorithms or through heuristic process. You are doing abstract thinking when you are creating an art form, you are creating a story or you are creating a painting. At that time you are doing abstract thinking. The abstract thinking, I can give you an example, like if you, the proverbs, everything that shines is all that glitters is not gold, is now if somebody can tell you that okay, whatever there's everything, there is a thing here which is shining and it is not gold, this is a very concrete way. What you know within your mind, gone through the education process, gone through the society, that it has abstract meaning. One should not run for everything that seems very attractive, it may not be actually gold. The process which you all engineers know much better, the surgeons know it, fixing equipment, and activities of daily living where you need judgment, little bit of judgment, that you have to obviously decide about your breakfast, you are going to have a hot milk, protect your hand from it. So, all these processes really go into thinking. I think therefore I am, Descartes said this, and that was a time when it was believed that because I think, that is the only thing, the world exists to me in my thought. There were contrary views to it, that you cannot actually think, you do not think, you actually get all the senses, and all those senses, all the sensations and the imagery of the world which gets into your head actually makes you think. So, your thought is nothing except for this, and then so on and so forth, there are many theories to it. What is the effect of thinking? The effect of thinking is personality. Do not we say that he is a very thoughtful person and his personality is like this, and lot of this thing we assume from behavior, which goes on to make your personality. After all, we relate the thought process of a person with the personality he or she exhibits. Relationships, whether you are going to maintain it, whether you are going to destroy it, your beliefs, all your belief system, all the identities which you have, whether you are a theist or agnostic or a religious person, whether you are a Hindu or a Muslim, you are a capitalist or you are a Marxist and you are a scientist, and it all depends on your belief system, and your belief system determines your behavior, which determines your personality, and your personality determines. So, it is all connected, as I said. All that is world in all the terms is made of this as a part, as I said, cognition as one part. Obviously, your action, the action is here, and sometimes these beliefs can also land up people in delusions, but we will not talk about them here. So, we have to look how do you actually become a thinking person, how do you develop your cognition. Piaget was one of the psychologists who really gave one of the very comprehensive theories of some of you who would have studied psychology in your courses would know it. I will briefly mention his name. He said it is cognitive development right from childhood, and he gave the periods of life where people develop different type of cognitive development. It happens in chunks, it happens in stages according to Piaget, but ultimately it is about gaining knowledge from the world, of the world, and so there has to be a. So, what was developing in knowledge? What is a cognitive development got to do with knowledge? The logic develops, that is the brain, the physical, the body, and the relationship. So, this is mind, this is body, and this is your whole relationships. After all, everything is in a relationship, nothing exists in isolation in this world. Body has its own knowledge, otherwise you would not be surviving. How do I move my hand, how do I hold this glass and how do I sip water? All this is part of the bodily knowledge, ultimately controlled by the brain, but still that pattern of behavior has to be there. After all, a cow standing on 4 cannot hold a cup like this. She has her own bodily knowledge, how to walk. A dog has its own. That is probably species specific. So, Piaget went on further. He said, after all, it is about knowledge, and the children are active learners. As they evolve and as this phases of their growth happens, the brain develops schemes of incorporating that knowledge through assimilation and accommodation. Now, assimilation and accommodation are two basic processes that you take something in and alter that knowledge, external thing, to fit into your already existing scheme. Accommodation is when you change your scheme to incorporate that knowledge. Like when you are sitting in a crowded train, I do not know whether you have experienced, you must have, and somebody comes and he says ki bhai please accommodate. So, you actually move, create a space, that is accommodation. You have actually changed yourself in a very physical concrete terms, but you can't ask that person to sit on your lap like assimilation. So, you take something in, modify it, which the brain does, and already fits into the already existing scheme. Accommodation is when you said, okay fine, I can't change this thing, let me change my the scheme of things. You are on a railway crossing and you say okay, railway crossing is closed, you accommodate yourself to it, that okay, when it will open I will go. That is accommodation. The schemes change over time, they are not, as I said, there are very few things in the brain which are concrete written on stone type of scheme. It keeps changing, it the knowledge and the scheme into which knowledge is fitted has a lot of modification within it. So, these are the stages till 2 years sensory motor, when the child is learning to hold things, to bring food to the mouth, to touch, to warm, to a lot of experiences. Pre-operational is when the kids start playing and giving life to the objects around, and as they think everything is living. Concrete operation is again further just before teenager, and formal operations where, so this again is about cause and effect. Like young children often attribute a cause and effect relationship, but as they grow they start developing abstract thinking, then they know that not everything in the world goes into a cause and effect. So, this, if you look at Piaget's theory, it was entirely dependent on how the mind, how the brain evolves schemas to interact with the knowledge that comes through the sense organs and through people, and develops into a level of thinking. He had no role for the social thing, and this is what he was criticized for also. Vygotsky brought in the socio-cultural theory. He brought in that it is not only the brain which is evolving and doing all this assimilation, it is the culture and society which is also affecting. He said that knowledge, whatever knowledge the mind gets in, is socially constructed and it is determined by culture. So, anybody who is born in a certain culture will think accordingly the way the culture has determined. So, a person born in a village in India would not think like a child who is being brought up in New York, although he may go later and assimilate and accommodate and change his style of thinking, but that basic influence of culture will remain. Neuroscience, when we talk of it, I will discuss this and how this happens and has a biological explanation. So, interactions with more able members of the society, zone of proximal development is scaffolding. Now, if you put the whole thing together, there is an influence of culture and society which a certain at a certain point of time certain members have. These people, when they give birth to their offsprings, and as they are bringing, the child who is not so able in thinking and physically or all, comes into a proximity with more abled people like parents. So, if you, and then this is how a scaffolding is developed, like a network which is a lower order, which is just about eating, drinking, sleep and basic survival, and then about learning and about work and about ethics and about the responsibilities, the duties, the tolerance which you have to develop in the society for people. All this, if you just look at oneself, you will know how you have learned. We were not so responsible when we were 2-year-old. We were taught. We were taught to wear a dress and go to school, do a certain decorum for the school, or when we behave with elders and how to give respect to others and how to give place to others. At the same time trying to develop your own ambitions, your own career and forwarding, there are a lot of things, but all this were taught to us. We do certain behavior because our dopamine was pushing, you can connect it all now. So, you have a certain impulse, your brain wants to explore, you want to listen to the sound of a glass falling, every kid tries that, but you can't do it at home also, you can't do it in a restaurant. So, you do not do it, your parents will reprimand or teach. Next time you go to a restaurant, you behave properly and you look at your parents for approval whether this is the right behavior. Parents will endorse it that this is the right behavior. Now, this will get into your scheme, and this is how deep structures in brain are forming the network of learning the right behavior, which is again expressed through action with your conscious thought. So, it all seems connected if you put it in a proper perspective. Their theories may differ, I am just telling you the broad construct of theories, but theories may differ and have contradictions, but largely this is how it goes. So, Vygotsky also said that language is the foundation of higher cognitive process. Now, there may be some people who may be thinking in images, some people may be thinking in musical notes, but Homo sapiens differs from lot of other primates in the development of language, and language is something which people have tried to teach to chimpanzees also with partial success. Chimpanzees are our nearest cousins and possibly they also have a template. So, what is the language? There is a private speech which the mind uses that language to construct the knowledge, but there is a spoken speech also which obviously has to follow the societal rules. We can see this in a illness called autism, where children are not using language socially. They have their own private speech, they have their own inner speech, they may speak out, but that purpose of that language to communicate socially is lost, and often they do not talk, or often they are quiet and parents are troubled and trying to balance and trying to teach them. But that is a process which everybody has. So, as we develop, we learn to convert the knowledge which has been formed in our private language, convert it to a spoken language which follows the rules of the society. Vygotsky also was saying that development is a very continuous process, and it is not a broken into chunks in phases and all. So, with this background, you go back to a statement which I made, that if you go to a bookshop, you will find lot of self-help books, and what are they telling you? They are just telling you that you have a thought and you have an action and you will reach success. Most of them are talking about the external success of achievement, of power, of money, of material success. Some of them are talking about especially with those with religious background and religious coloring, are really talking about your internal changes which you have heard of Bhagavad Gita. We showed the first slide in the first lecture. It was about what? It was about change. And Krishna was telling Arjun about a change in cognition. And when I am talking about cognition, again let me remind you, it is not monolithic thinking, it is about abstraction, about judgment, about the process. So, the gist is like this: if you change your thinking, you change your attitude. If you change your attitude, you change your action. This was just a part of the huge discourse which he gave. The whole thing maybe is running around 90 minutes. If you change your action, you change your habit. If you change your habit, you change your personality. If you change your personality, you change your destiny. If you change your destiny, you change your life. Now, if you just look, it is a hierarchical thing which is going on. In fact, life is the biggest destiny. If there is a destiny, the personality runs through this life, habits are small actions, again smaller actions leading to habit, the whole idea of attitude. So, if you put it in the reverse, you will see it that eventually if you want to change your life, if you want to change this, you have to change this. Now, connection between this and this hides a very, very important thing. Whether you can change your thinking and life involuntarily, the way it happens by the influence of society, or is there a will in it? This is an important question. The whole discourse, if you look at it, points out and hides within it a will. This will is the important thing. Now, we will talk about will in one of the future lectures as we move on. But look at it, where does this design come from? Where does the idea of pencil, somebody may have just discovered it, but after discovering, to put it to some use would have been thought of. All these designs, how you ride a bicycle, there is a flight, scissors cut, specs look at it, discovers your head, everything starts with a thinking eventually. So, how do we think? Is answering these questions actually. How do we see and hear? How do we focus our attention? How we remember things, how we acquire new knowledge, how we communicate, how we reason, how do we solve problems, how do we make decisions. Thinking involves all this actually. So, what is happening? The sound goes in, it is processed, it is gone into experience. So, this psychology is actually studying this, the process and experience. So, what are the models which were explaining this whole cognitive process? I will briefly just mention, I am not going into the theory of it. Freud, we all know Sigmund Freud, the originator of psychoanalysis, talked of structure of the brain, of mind. He said there is something called id, there is something called ego, there is something called superego. Id is the impulsive, instinctual self. Instinctual self means same thing which you were talking about, like dopamine. At that time in early 20th and late 19th century, dopamine was not known. So, obviously, he could not give that model, but instinctual is the dopamine which pushes to do impulsive acts, exploration. If it goes out of control, obviously leads to crime or psychiatric illnesses. Superego is the culture rules that tell you what is right from wrong and what you should do or you should not do. So, Freud was one of those people who thought that man is a beast and he needs societal rules to control it. ego is the manager which balances between this and this. So, the rules are there, they are already set in a big frame. Your instinct wants to jump here and there, so that the instinct does not break this frame, the ego plays in between. And this is how he talked of, if you know, defense mechanisms and all, which were conversion of this impulsive thought process. Then he also gave a topographical model which said that, so Freud maybe actually was, the Freudian theory of mind went out of vogue when a lot of cognitive psychology came in. But now the neuroscience is partly proving him correct again. Unconscious to conscious, we talked about it, how your unconscious brain processes whatever information goes in through the senses and presents a picture to conscious. We will talk about this later. So, man is a slave of unconscious mind and a rationalizing animal. He also insisted that childhood experiences make the adult. So, what a adult thinks or an adult does has its basis in the childhood experiences. Behaviorism actually toppled Freud, and you know about Pavlov and Skinner. The focus was the relationship between the observable behavior and the stimulus. So, what is the learning? How do you gain knowledge here? You associate between stimuli and responses, that if a snake comes to you, you have to run away. So, fight or flight is the natural instinct, but your mind makes a decision to run away. So, it is, they said that the learning is all about learning this connection. Pavlov, the famous experiment with dog, show the food, the dog salivates, food and bell, salivates, then just ring the bell and the dog will salivate. So, that went to a certain extreme, where they started talking that all human behavior is just a matter of environmental stimuli. As I said, there some people believe that human being has nothing, it is all about the societal influence. Skinner was one of the person who pushed it forward, and he brought in the concept of that the rewards and punishments shape our behavior. So, the dopamine theory again has some basis in this, that if the mind gives you a reward, you will repeat it again if there is a punishment, but he was talking of external reward and punishment, but the mind does it from within. So, what is wrong? Is learning all about forming a stimulus response? Where does your thought come in? Because this would just take off your will and intent. If it is the stimulus which decides your response, where does the will or intent or thinking come in? It would take off the power of the human mind to change oneself, because obviously you are so dependent on the stimulus and response that you really cannot change yourself or decide your behavior. If you cannot decide, what gives you the meaning? This gave rise to cognitive psychology in the last few decades, and this is almost the antithesis of behaviorism. So, on one hand was Freud with his theory of instinctual self, the manager ego and the rules of society. Behaviorism was stimulus and response, with where is the thought, and cognitive psychology came in with the basis of actually giving power to thinking. We will stop at this in this lecture, and in the next also we will just continue to take you further in the into the cognitive psychology, and thank you.